Hello, I'm Linda Ruas and I'm recording from London in England. I'm an ESL teacher. I teach migrants in London, mostly adults, asylum seekers and refugees. And I'm also a teacher trainer. I teach on CELTA courses. Also, I'm a key part of the IATEFL Global Issues Special Interest Group. And my really big interest at the moment is teaching in Africa, especially West Africa. And I've been to Guinea-Bissau several times, and I have a lot of contact with lots of teachers groups across Africa. Okay, I'd like to share my slides with you. And after this short presentation, there's going to be an opportunity for questions and answers, live questions and answers, hopefully. Okay, so this is about global issues in African ESL, EFL classes. And we're going to start with something that I know you teachers and students in Benin love. I know you love these reformulations because of the amazing WhatsApp group English Workshop, and many, many teachers and students are totally obsessed by learning English by reformulations. So have a look at these. Can you do them quickly in your heads? And now, have a look at the next slide. Can you see a difference? Okay, so these first ones are basically meaningless. The man, who? His sister, what book? He, the kids, which movies? They produce more food than any country. Which country? Who are they? I had better make them. Who is I? We have no meaning in any of these sentences. So it's basically an academic exercise of playing around with grammar, but no meaning at all. Doesn't it make it more interesting, more challenging, if you have reformulations like this, when you're actually dealing with an idea, which is really important in Benin? Students and teachers can think about things like this, discuss them, maybe even solve problems, or at least raise awareness of many of these issues that are so important to us in everyday life. And these are the global issues that I'm going to be talking about. So, global issues in ELT, we're going to look briefly at what, why, when, who, and how. So let's start with what for global issues. And a really brilliant example of global issues is the many debate topics and drama section topics which are included in your BECS, Benin English Club Summit. I had the privilege of seeing the wonderful handbook that Dorothée Chada put together about the English Club Summit. And Dorothée also wrote an article about some of these topics and debates and drama for our next GSIG publication. But look at these topics. This is what life is all about. Women in politics, scarification, abortion, racism, polygamy, smuggled drugs, sex for grades, endangered species, IVF, LGBT, early marriage. All of these things are global issues. And all of these things you are already dealing with a lot, getting students to talk about, debate, do little dramas about, and raising awareness of. Really important. And this is something we can do together through English. Why global issues? Well, there are three main reasons I can see. Language teaching really needs some sort of content or meaning. If we don't have any content or meaning, what's the point of learning meaningless phrases, meaningless grammar, when you're not actually communicating any ideas? You could put any content or meaning into it, but I don't think there could be more things much more worthwhile than solving problems, the social, local, and global problems that we have so many of. The second point is that looking at global issues involves problem solving, and this develops higher level thinking skills and critical awareness, this critical thinking, which is so important in the 21st century. Global issues has to involve real language and real language use, because we're talking about things that are important and things that are real and that affect all of us and that will affect us all so much more in the future. And the fourth reason is that these topics, by bringing them into class, we could actually create real change in awareness and action. So we could be doing two things at once: teaching English, learning English, and also creating real change in the world. Two easy questions now: when and who. When global issues in class? Well, it's up to you. Some people choose to have global issues just for special days. For example, Earth Day or Women's Day. And there are lots of materials you can use for this, or of course, develop your own materials. On our Global Issues SIG website, which I'll give you at the end, we have a calendar of special days that you can click on to see lots of lessons with short videos. And our last GSIG publication was 12 months of social issues. And there's lots of lessons in there for different special days through the year. Second option with when is all the time. And I find I'm more and more bringing global issues into all my teaching because it's the one thing I'm more passionate about. More interesting than passives or relative clauses anyway. And projects, maybe some special project work when you have time during the year to do projects. Who is responsible for bringing the global issues into class and for working with them? And it could be the teacher. It could be that you bring in lots of topics, texts, lessons, ideas. It could be the students. You could ask them what's most important to them, what they care about, what they want to learn about in class. It could be your teaching association. Lots of teaching associations do particular projects or work around specific global issues. Or it could be something based on the community, various problems or issues that the community is having that you want to talk about or work on in the English class. You could always get subversive. Have a look at these 4 examples, A to D, and see if you can see anything wrong with those examples. Okay, the first one. Yes, if you assume somebody is a man, what if it's a woman? I get really annoyed with my students if they write "Dear Sir," because I tell them that they're ignoring half of the world who the recipient could possibly be. So, "Dear Sir" / "Madam" is so much better because you're including everyone. B. Yeah, here, a teacher should care about his work. What about all the women teachers? So we need to include women in everything and make a fuss and challenge it if women are not included. She's a career woman. Isn't everyone nowadays? Isn't every woman looking to have some sort of career in something? You never say he's a career man, do you? Because we assume men would have a career. And the last one, English for businessmen. What about the women? Don't forget half the world. So with these little examples, getting students to work out what's wrong, you could get them to think about things, get them to challenge things. What about a normal classroom task? For example, practicing the language of advice and suggestions. Look at these 2 types of situation cards on the left and the right. Which list would you use in class? And which list includes global issues? it might be useful to do both in class. The situation cards on the left, you've lost your pen, you have a headache. These are the normal class coursebook type of situations for role plays. These are situations that happen to everyone, but they're not tied to any specific real problem. The ones on the right, these were written by a teacher in Guinea-Bissau for some language practice. They are all about specific issues that students might have. Now, of course, you may not want to bring these issues into class. Of course, there may be more problems with bringing them in, embarrassing people, breaking cultural, religious taboos. So you have to think about bringing these topics into class very carefully beforehand. But aren't they useful? If you're going to be practicing the language of advice and suggestions, and this is a role play, I think they might actually come up with some really good solutions. And you might get people getting tested for sexually transmitted diseases, for finding AIDS early, avoiding pregnancies, this sort of thing, if you use situation cards like this. It's risky. You have to think carefully about it, but it may have much more specific results. The last question, how? Okay, in Global Issues SIG, we are putting together a really good publication at the moment, which is articles by teachers all across Africa about global issues in class and their teaching association. So these are just some of them, and just some of the things which are actually going on around Africa at the moment. So we have pictures here. The bottom left, the students in class, they are from Cameroon, and they're holding up their class project about malaria, cholera, and typhoid. They were told that they needed to research these in English. They had a week or two to get all their ideas together and to find the English to express their ideas. And then they presented their ideas to the class and did some work on vocabulary. Excellent project, really engaged the students, and they learned so much from it as well. The bottom right-hand corner is in Tanzania. And this is part of life skills training by a wonderful teacher called Catherine Najau, who raises awareness about menstruation, how the body works, how girls have periods and need to go to school with them. They make menstruation pads for girls and distribute them so that they can carry on at school more and not miss out. Amazing work she's doing in raising awareness of body and what happens in your body, which of course is a taboo in many countries. Other topics on this page, empowering women in Guinea-Bissau with short text in class, reducing deforestation in Gabon, and there they taught the students and got the students to teach the parents. Disabilities in South Africa with the Teaching Association, and Mozambique supporting government initiatives about girls' school dropouts. More ideas. The picture at the top with the rabbits. This is from Uganda, a teacher called Liberty Christopher, and he's been working on socioeconomic empowerment projects with students. And they had a rabbit farm on a school, and students got money from this, learned about business, and had the rabbits to eat as well in the school. A really excellent project. The top right picture is a school in Cabo Verde. And this was a lesson that a teacher did about teenage pregnancies. The students wanted to talk about girls and boys and why they were so different. And she did a lesson on comparatives, dividing the boys and girls into different groups to write sentences comparing girls and boys. Then they put the sentences together, and it really helped them understand each other and what the girlfriends and boyfriends wanted from a relationship and how to have a healthy teenage relationship. More ideas here from Ghana, sexual harassment, Namibia, litter, DRC, English club discussions on Ebola, which really helped raise awareness, working on drugs in Cameroon, and even working on suicide in English club group tasks in Kenya. Not discussing suicide, but discussing positive tasks and working on students' self-esteem. So lots and lots of ideas here about things that we can do in class. There are three main types of activity in the book, the publication. Practical tasks for English classes. These work on specific grammar points or language points or skills or, for example, short text in English. Project work for classes or English clubs. This is usually integrated skills and language working together. And awareness raising or training by English teaching associations. I don't know if you recognize the picture at the top right-hand corner here, but this is one lesson about Benin in the publication. This is written by Crystal Zinzovi. And this is about vegetarianism in Benin. Very rare, very common in Europe, but very rare in Benin. And Crystal wrote a great lesson, a debate about vegetarianism, got the students to do it, to debate it. And they were really, really engaged and learnt so much English and even persuaded lots of people that vegetarianism would be a useful, good option. Good for the planet, cheaper, more healthy. The bottom picture is in Guinea-Bissau, and this is when they had a tree planting day for the Teaching Association and teachers and students to raise awareness of deforestation, planting trees, looking after the environment. So there's a huge range of activities that we can do. Here are some more, some texts, manifestos and action. Look at the text first. What is it about? What's the topic? Yeah, it's a very sad story and all too common in Africa, of course, about child marriage, which still goes on in Guinea-Bissau and many other places. We discussed this story in the WhatsApp group and formed a lesson around it for teachers to use in class, to bring the topic into class, to get people to talk about it and to find solutions. Look at the top right-hand corner. This anti-drug manifesto was produced by students in Cameroon, in the French-speaking part of Cameroon, when they all got together to decide to do something about drugs in schools. And at the top, this is from some work in Zambia by a teacher called Marta on child abuse. And she was working on raising awareness of what people should do in the case of sexual harassment. Very important for protecting children. So it's young people who are leading the way, leading the world in many of these situations at the moment. Young people around the world are fighting for climate justice. Have you heard about all the climate strikes? Started by Greta Thunberg in Sweden. She started just over a year ago by striking every Friday to bring the government's attention to the climate change and what was happening for her future and the future of all young people. And since then, people have taken this up all around the world. And there are some brilliant examples from Africa too. Leah Namugawa from Uganda started the school strikes there, Strike for Climate. And Lesane Mutunkein from Kenya has really got into global issues, and he's decided to plant a tree for every goal he scores in football. So this is something that all of our students can be involved in. The Me Too campaign, #MeToo, about sexual harassment, involving teenagers in this. It's their future, it's their bodies, it's their life, and we need to involve people. I think we need to let the young people lead, and a good way to do this is through the English clubs in Benin, as I'm sure you know all too well. And is it possible, I don't know how many of you are interested in global issues, it could be possible to start a BNTEA Global Issues Special Interest Group. What you could do is to share teaching materials, create and adapt more materials, share your worries and concerns and discuss the global issues that are important in Benin. organise some sort of activities and projects like some of the ones that we've talked about already. Or in the top right, work through the Sustainable Development Goals and look at how those apply in Benin. You could work together with the IATEFL Global Issues SIG, which would be great to work more with people in Benin. If you're interested in starting a Global Issues Special Interest Group, can you contact Crystal or me? Here are our emails, and we'll give them afterwards as well. And maybe we can get global issues to take over even more in all our lessons. Okay, so the final slide here. Here are some links. Please have a look at the IATEFL Global Issues SIG website, gsig.iatefl.org, and especially the resources, the calendar of special days, and the 12 months of social issues. Good ways of starting to bring global issues into your classes. This is my website, the New Internationalist Easier English Wiki. There's lots of simplified text about world issues and lots of ready lessons on PowerPoint and PDF and quizzes. And another site which I find really useful, ELT Sustainable, they have a lot of lessons and resources on there. Okay, so thank you very much for listening to me. Hopefully, I'm going to be able to connect with you live in a minute through Zoom. So thank you and enjoy the rest of your conference.